All right. So we are going live on Facebook and YouTube, just FYI, so that anybody on Zoom, if you do care to share, when you share, you will be going out on Facebook and YouTube live as well. But certainly encourage you to share whatever you feel comfortable sharing. To get started here this morning, I'm going to go ahead and have Nicholas pipe in here. And again, I got to do things manually here. Nicholas, why don't you go ahead and share with us what's going on out at the barn?
All right. Yep. This is Nicholas here, and you can see the red barn here in front. If we were to go A to Z, back just 5 weeks ago, we started making this barn overhang on the sides so that we could isolate all the tools and turn this work zone into a living zone. Slowly after that, moving to B, we had a ton of lumber here. We moved that into that side area. And so we have this cleared out area. We get rid of some of them boxes right there. And made a little space on the side, but this will be a little cafe area. But the big reveal is what went down yesterday. Gil put this door up yesterday. We kind of tore the old one down and reframed it. But as you come into this big space, then look at this. We have the flooring down here, which is these fun little interlocking puzzle piece things. Feel really good on my tootsies right now. And we blew the place out, meaning there was a lot of sawdust and stuff we were building. There's a whole secret area back there for apartments and bathrooms and all that we'll get to in phase 2. But phase 1, we have hit a milestone, which is exciting for all of us because it really feels like for the folks that donated to this project and are looking to donate for the next phase and help us through this, then, hey, we got something to show for it. We have an AC unit right there. We're going to flip that on probably today or tomorrow. It's already connected. It works. We're just going to get, so we're just kind of finishing out the electrical right here, which is pretty much done. We're going to flip a few switches, get it. And we have all the paneling. And all that wood was a bit of a bear to get in place. But my shoulders and back and all the parts that need a Swedish massage are saying, thank God that we are done with the paneling and all the insulation behind the paneling, etc. But this whole big old space, you can see Gil dragged this, Gil, that's my yoga mat. You took my yoga mat. And he put it out here and did something fun out here. I think he has a picture on Facebook with his feet hanging out there and just enjoying the sunrise. So go check that out. But it feels so good just walking out here in this space. Like you said, someone was asking about lighting. Look at that big old lighting area. And then this area going out to this nice little future cafe area. And then our little prototype spot here had a meditation spot out here, but now like the whole area is this huge meditation area. And this next week, we're going to break it in with the Living Without Limits retreat that's hosted here at the Pearl. And then if you're available and want to travel to it, we have the Shaman retreat coming up in November. So that's going to be an educational shaman retreat with those two people, Dylan and Heather Hoffman, who were on the Gil Hodges Freedom podcast within this last month and also on the Gathering. So Gil, I'll send it back to you.
All right, very cool. I love what's happening. As I said, I got to keep looking up here to see where I'm clicking just to get things going here. But awesome. Yeah, we've had a great time, and we actually finished ahead of schedule, which is amazing and very cool. So we're now going to be moving into, like Nicholas said, phase 2, which is going to be a lot less hustle and a lot more rest as we move forward, in the sense that we get to do it from a place of greater peace. We're not pushed to get anything done by a certain time. So obviously, if you want to come to the retreat this coming week, it starts this Thursday, goes through Sunday, and this one is going to be on Living Without Limits, and just a little bit about that, and then we'll go on to our topic for the day. Living without limits to me is it's important, because when we understand that we are programmed, and that all this programming from different areas of our life, and I know you've heard me say it over and over and over, but very, 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 very few people actually step into it and start understanding and discovering that programming and understand the power that you have to deprogram from it and to reprogram what you really want. You are the one that is in control. And so living without limits is breaking off the limits that you've been programmed with and learning to step into the beauty of who you truly are. And then in November, November 7, 8, and 9 is the Shaman Retreat, as Nicholas was saying. That's going to be an educational one. They're going to be talking about the medicine wheel and the different plant medicines and so forth and how they're used. Again, there's not going to be any ceremony at that time, but there will, be that educational process that if you're interested, you can follow up with them more. All right, so that is where we're at now, and I think we're ready to go ahead and I'm just gonna start sharing something. Now, before I go in, I was gonna say, is there anything that anybody else has before I jump into the teaching for today? Nicholas, go ahead.
Yeah, one last thing is, I think I'm going to put some shoes on and go walk a labyrinth that's at the back of the Pearl. We have this, it takes a fast walker who ignores all the rings of meditation that we made in there. It takes him 15 minutes to get to our labyrinth, which goes through a wild area. So I'm going to turn my camera in that direction. So if you end up looking on my camera while we're doing the gathering, you might see me walking the labyrinth, and you can just walk along as you're enjoying the gathering if you wish.
So it'll be meditative and probably take him, I'm guessing it's going to take Nicholas about 30 minutes to walk that whole thing if he's walking it meditatively. So, all right. Anybody else have anything that you'd like to share, or maybe even a question if you'd like to ask something before we jump in? All right. I don't see any hands going up here, and I'm sorry if you're on Facebook or YouTube. I don't have the bandwidth to try to watch all that as well. If somebody else looks at it and sees that there's a question or a thought on there that they want to share here on Zoom, go ahead. And if you are on Facebook and YouTube and you want to come over to Zoom, I encourage you to do so. And if you're watching a recording of this later, I encourage you to go to the website, because if you go to my website, gilhodgesfreedom.com, obviously that's where you would sign up and register for the retreats as well. But if you go there, gilhodgesfreedom.com, and look for the Gathering, then you'll find the link for the Gathering in that space, and it'll take you to the Zoom section here. So we'd love to have you here live so you can participate. And again, if you do share, you're going to be going on to Facebook and YouTube Live, so just FYI on that. All right, so I don't see any other hands up, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of dive in. So the topic today, is the idea that, control is simply an illusion. So when we spend so much of our lives trying to hold things together, relationships, finances, our own image, even our faith, most of our stress doesn't come from what's happening around us. It's actually coming from the idea that we're trying to manage what was never ours to control in the first place. So, the control is the illusion of safety. And we chase control because we believe it makes us safe, right? The truth is, control is nothing more than a counterfeit of peace. And when we feel unsafe, inside, we start rearranging the outside, trying to make up for it. We want to rearrange that outside by, rearranging the people we're with, the schedules we have, situations. And yet peace doesn't really come from managing the storm on the outside. It comes from knowing who you are within. And so here's a question to begin with. Where in my life am I trying to manage something because I'm afraid to trust? So where in my life am I trying to manage something because I'm afraid to trust? See, control is absolutely, it's actually rooted in old programming. So every control pattern is something that we've learned. It's a programming, maybe from fear or trauma, religion, or even success. It's all going to be, stirring that up inside of us. And I'm going to go ahead and switch this over. I know that might be a little distracting. So But if you're on Zoom, you can go ahead and continue watching where Nicholas is going there. But anyway, the thing is, it's programming. So again, whether it's fear or trauma, religion, or even success, it's all programming. But none of those patterns define who we truly are. They're just survival scripts, and they're running in the background. And when you become conscious of them, you then can choose differently. And it's what a lot of people don't necessarily always understand, is they just think they're, going to be subject and victim to whatever it is they're, rolled up in. But here's another question. What belief or agreement is driving your need to control a situation? Because there's something behind it, right? All right, so then the other thing is the power of choice will free us if we understand what it's actually doing. So choice is the activator of your will. It's that switch. I talk about it all the time. It what flips the spiritual switch and puts that willpower into gear and gets things moving. And when you choose surrender over struggle, you're shifting from resistance to flow. So it's not passivity, it's alignment. We're aligning with who God says we are. And when we align with it, we become empowered. So here's another question then. Where in my life can I consciously choose surrender instead of struggle today? Just something to think about. What area are you fighting and striving to try to control it and to make it look like what you want? Where might you choose differently so that you're not in that same struggle today? And then, letting go, it's not losing power, it's redirecting it. And we think that surrender means weakness. Oftentimes, we're thinking that, well, and let me say this. I usually prefer to use the word submit rather than surrender. Because to me, submit is a choice. I choose to submit to someone or something. Versus surrender kind of gives the indication that I've been placed in a position to where I have no other good choice in this situation. I have to surrender. And it's because you've been dominated in a lot of respects, and therefore you have to surrender. Submission is actually being in the opposite position of being in a place where you do simply give over to the other person or the other thing. So, we think that this is a weak position, but it's really not. It's actually a redirection of our power. So when we're redirecting our power to give into God, to give into the direction that He's leading so we can flow with what He's doing, that begins to change everything. And when we let go, we release energy. We release the energy that's been trapped in fear. That energy becomes a creative force in God's hands when we let go of the fear and trying to control, and we just begin to flow. That energy begins to flow, and more energy begins to come. So a question you might also ask yourself here is, how might releasing control actually expand my influence instead of diminishing it? And then control also blocks co-creation. When we cling to outcomes, all right, so when we have those expectations that get in the way, those expectations where we define what we want the outcome to be, we block divine flow. Because how many times have people got a prophetic word and they instantly decide this is the way that is going to look when it's fulfilled, and then life goes on, and perhaps it was fulfilled decades ago, but they're still looking for it to be fulfilled the way they want it fulfilled, when it was never meant to be that way in the first place. So control limits what infinite intelligence can bring into our lives. And it's like gripping a seed so tightly that you crush it before it ever gets a chance to grow. So again, asking, where have I possibly mistaken my plan for God's unfolding? And where have I gotten in the way? Just some things again to think about. And then peace, is going to wind up being the byproduct of trust. So peace isn't about having no problems, it's about having trust. And I can't tell you how beautiful it is, here at the Pearl, when, I have to slow down myself sometimes. I have to slow down in order to enjoy the peace. And that takes trust, because oftentimes if I'm not careful, my expectations are running in the background saying, I got to get this done, I got to get that done, I got to get, all these things, I gotta. When in reality, when I let those go and I just simply sink into that space and that place of trust, trusting that God has a plan, trusting that his way is going to be better than my way, then I find peace. So peace naturally is going to replace anxiety. So when we stop striving and we start aligning, we begin to see things come together. We begin to find a deeper rest deep inside of us. So how often do I confuse busyness with progress, or control with peace? Some of the things to think about. So how often do you confuse your busyness with progress and your control with peace? So we oftentimes think when we got everything under control, we get this peace, but it's our peace that we're managing by striving and making things fit and making things work the way we want, versus trusting God and letting go and flowing. So freedom is going to come through conscious awareness. And this is where transformation begins to happen. Freedom isn't found in controlling one's life. It's found in awakening to what you're supposed to be. And then there's a flow that begins to happen with that. So when you live in conscious awareness, you stop reacting and you start observing through the lens of love. And it becomes a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place to just simply operate day to day, and that's the practice. That's the practice of daily life, is to be able to step into that space and place where we are able to live from peace, because we've stepped into trust and we are flowing with what God has created for us, versus trying to go out and make things happen. And Nicholas and anybody who's here at the Pearl knows that I can fall into that really, really fast, where I just simply push and try to make things happen, versus letting go and flowing. And it's a beautiful place when we can just flow. Hey, there's things here that can be done. There's things here that we can work on. We can be busy all day long for weeks on end. But are we doing what I want, or am I doing what God is doing? And that's the difference. And there's a beautiful flow when I can let go, stop trying to control everything, and step into that peace of flow. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just wrap that up there. And I'd love to hear your guys' feedback, your thoughts, your questions. What have you got? And I just want to say, I see that on Facebook here, on Zoom here, the text to give, I'm sorry, but that is no longer functioning. We are streamlining a bunch of things, so the text to give is not going to work. But if you go to the GilHodgesFreedom.com, that is a place where you can go ahead and still donate, help support what we're doing here in terms of setting people free. And the Pearl is now the base of that. And we got a long ways to go, but I know that God's going to provide as needed as we're moving forward to make this place, I believe, what he's put on our hearts to make it. So, all right. So, again, anybody have any thoughts or any questions that you'd like to share? Just raise your electronic hand or your physical hand and wave in front of the camera, and I should be able to see that. And I'm going to look on Facebook and YouTube while you guys are thinking about it. Okay, I see June. June, your hand is up. Go ahead. You're muted still.
Thank you. I'm thinking of something Deneen said last week when, if I was listening correctly, Deneen, you heard to do something and you jumped ahead and did it, and you said that was a mess for several years. Do you remember that?
That sounds like something that may have happened in my life at one point.
Right, way back.
I may have been telling a story about it, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
Way back or something. But yeah. I don't think you were doing it out of fear. You were doing it out of excitement, in what you thought it was going to be. So sometimes we're not doing it out of fear because we can't control, but we're just jumping ahead. This is something, oh, I think this is something I should do that I want to do, and we just go ahead and do it. But the beautiful thing is, God is so patient. He just lets us do it until we figure it out to surrender.
Yeah, yeah. And it kind of comes back to those, there's the control issue when we're working out of fear. However, there's also, our own expectations and preferences, which, they're not necessarily out of fear. Those are based out of programming that we have. And, it can be good or it can be bad. And that's why it's good to be awake, to understand what your preferences are, what your expectations are, and then to try to realign them best as we can in what we believe God has got for us. So, but even there's a lot of programming from churches and different religions that tell us what God's doing and what he's not doing, when may not have anything to do with what he's actually doing. So,
right.
Yeah. Good. Thank you, June. Dorette.
And I didn't mean to pick on Deneen. We have all done that.
Oh, she's coming back.
Yeah, it was just fresh in my mind from last week.
No, it's good. It's good. All right, Dorette, go ahead.
Yeah, this is definitely speaking to me. I'm I'm thinking of when I started in August on a big project that's I finished the first draft this week, so that felt very good. But this was a research proposal with basically a big evaluation of everything that you have done in the past 5 years, and then describing what you want to do in the next 5 years, and what the big picture is as to why you want to do this. And for me, at least, it felt at that point as an evaluation of me, and didn't like that. And I think for me at that point, the first thing that the Lord told me was, acknowledge your own weakness. Don't try to be stronger than you are, and be willing to be weak in my hands, and trust me to help you in this. So because for me, I could go two ways with fear at that point. The one was, don't even start. And the other one was indeed like, try to work like crazy and try to figure out what's going on here, being that kind of mouse running around trying to find something. And I'll say, okay, neither one of those is going to work. And just learn. And actually, I started by writing a poem, which started about like how beautiful life is in spring, with all the hope of new life and so on, and how hard it is if you feel that you're entering fall with an empty basket. And so I was like, Lord, have I accomplished? And then, first of all, the Lord started showing me just the things that I had accomplished that were not related to that proposal. And he was like, those things are valuable too. And I just want to first acknowledge those for you. And then as I started the proposal and just said, okay, I do not know what I'm going to be writing here. I do not, like, I started with keywords and so on, and I did get pages full of keywords, but I still didn't feel I knew what I was writing. And he just said, start writing and trust me as I'm going along. And that did not mean that I was going to not be working hard. I mean, this was really, there were only so many days left, and there was a lot to be written. But in the middle of that, he was there with me, to the point that in the last days, I was, some of my colleagues also started really helping my co-authors on this work. And I started seeing connections that I hadn't seen before. And in the end, I mean, it's still a rough draft. I definitely have more work to do in the next weeks, just in polishing things up. But the content is there. It's just a matter of now cleaning up things. And I have a feeling that this is a gift. I mean, actually, my basket is much fuller than I thought it was ever going to be. And I also started to see how the things came together and why. I'm excited about the next stage. And I'm just like, if I could just learn to not start from that place of, I don't see where I am. And I'm just really like, Lord, I want to learn to truly see myself the way that you see me and the way that you love me. And I think as if one thing that I've learned over the last couple of weeks is just like how little I know how he sees me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if we there, then we don't need to live from fear.
Yeah.
And and I'm just like, okay, Lord, help me to really make that my first focus in my life. And those other things will, then programming has no chance.
Yeah. I love that. And, the thing is, God is not in the business of stressing us out. Even the worst of circumstances, the worst of traumas, and, it's hard to even imagine, but when we're able to see those from a perspective of God's got all of this under control, He really does. He could step in at any moment if He wanted to or needed to. He's not incapable. And we were having a discussion with somebody else here recently, and I just pointed out there's a difference between God can't and God won't. I don't believe there is anything that God can't do. There are lots of things that He won't do because He has set things up in a certain way that He just refuses to violate His own parameters that He's put out there. And so, it's important to understand that. So God He is in control, but it doesn't mean that He's going to intervene on every circumstance that comes into our lives. But when we can step back and just know that He is in control, and even unto death, I'm okay. I'm okay.
But I think he does want to work with us. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I have
Yeah.
to acknowledge my own weakness and to
Yeah.
say, okay, I do not have the full picture in my head at this point.
Yeah.
And I still don't. But he does want my input and he wants to work together with me.
Yeah. No, and that's a beautiful part of, again, being a fractal of the divine, is that He wants us to grow. It's almost as if He's looking for us to grow individually apart from Him, but as we grow, He's growing because we're growing in Him. But there's so much more to when we grow in Him than if we're trying to just do our own thing, because now we're like a fingernail trying to be an eyeball, and it just doesn't work that well. But when the fingernail's being a fingernail, it's protecting the little finger from, the boo-boos that might happen if you didn't have that fingernail. All right. Well, thank you, Dorette. All right, Doreen, go ahead.
You mean Deneen?
Janine, what did I say?
You used to always call me Doreen.
Did
But
I?
yes, you did. And then you stopped. Now I'm Doreen again, right?
I'm so sorry. I didn't even catch it.
You know I'm not offended. I just thought I would bring it to your attention.
Deneen, please go ahead.
It rhymes with Janine, who's not with us today.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. But first, before I say the second part, I have two parts. One, what I've come to understand at this juncture is that my resistance continuously led to me understanding my true existence, which always led to stress, right? And when you were talking, it made me think of it that way. It was, something like a alliteration, but whatever. But I really thought that surrender for me did not exactly mean, surrender like I lost the war, but it actually was a relief for me. And I've come to be comfortable with submission and surrender. They both are very comfortable for me because I, as the whole June brought up, my early years were very full of impulsivity. Some call it zeal without knowledge, right? And I equate that to immaturity. But yet, even though it was out of ignorance, my deduction is that it was the programming that led me there was fear-based. So I find it all to be inclusive as I think about it in a deductive way, right? Not just, at face value, but as I go back and I'm utilizing my own life's journey to come up with these comments because I think my experiences are the only thing that I have that are my reality. Because what I hear from you guys, it helps me. It's like a map. It leads me to what I've read in literature or Bible or whatever. It's like a map that leads me to. But my experiences actually give me the reality of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so my reality is that when I was, being Deneen, the little girl, she was not necessarily chronologically the little girl. She was acting like this, but, still I was, I was really impulsive, excited about stuff. I'm sure you guys could never imagine that of me, right? I was excited about things and I would just jump in. So it just made me chuckle with that to be the thing that would stand out with June because that was a part of my personality for so long. But yet, as I started growing up a little bit, I realized that it may not have been directly a fear-based thing, but ultimately, the deduction again, when I deduced it, the programming that I had, it came from fear and my ignorance because I did not know my true self. I actually unconsciously resisted and I had moments which I believe we can be free of stress.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so now I'm in this part of my journey where I'm trying to be conscious of it. I have not yet apprehended, but I'm conscious of it, which I believe is a great feat. And
Yeah.
I'm okay with where I am in it, and I don't mind, making mistakes, and I don't beat myself up about it, or allow outside entities to beat me up about it. It makes me chuckle and smile often because of having the head knowledge of a lot of these things way before it has entered into here. It makes me chuckle that I've just been just like a foolish little kid again. I'm like, you know what? I say this to myself, how long, Danita, are you going to have to bump your head against the wall,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
experience these uncomfortable things, like stress, before you finally submit and surrender.
Yeah.
So my perspective on all of this kind of stuff.
I love it. I love
Today,
that.
I don't know what it's going to be tomorrow, but just
Right.
for today.
Right. Well, and what I like the people, the leaders, the teachers that are able to express the fact that, hey, we're all on this journey together, rather than, oh, I've risen above that. Let me teach you how to do that. I did it once and it worked and I'm all good. Hey, I'm one that I'll tell you, this whole thing of surrender that you bring up, I feel, for me, the definition of surrender and submit, have a meaning for me. But I love what you were saying, because there are times where I finally have beat my head against the same wall so freaking much that I finally get it through my head. It's like, why don't I surrender and or either I'm just worn out. I'm just worn out from trying so hard to do it my way. And I finally wake up and go, oh, the smarter thing would have been if I'd recognized it early on and submitted to it. Now I'm in a position where I'm finally surrendering to it because it's just beat the snot out of me. But it's good. I love that. Thank you, Deneen. Now, Stephanie, you had your hand up. If you want to go ahead, please.
I did. I'm in my car. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So I kind of wanted to share something, but my brain kind of forgot what the question was. But I know I'm like, uh-oh. I think it was about like, where have you grown from being programmed to like a surrender situation? So it was funny because I'm an Uber driver, that I blurred my background, but one of my last couple passengers, he's like, I'm going to church. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. And I was telling him I do church online. And it is not the first time I've had them like, you don't go to church? well, when's the last time you've been in a building? And he was kind of that way. And it was like, I said, well, this is the season God has me in, and I just haven't really found a place where I connect. Then he starts telling me how great his church is, and I'm sure it is. I'm not knocking that, but it was like he came from a thing of you have to be physically present with other believers in order for it to count. It almost felt like that, and it's like, I'll be honest, I spent years looking for a church I felt at home in. But now that the Lord has grown me, there are 2 or 3 doctrines that I find kind of repulsive, that I just don't feel like I connect. I love them. I know they're my brothers in Christ, but I feel more peaceful just sitting in my car listening to you guys,
Yeah.
than going in and doing the duty and sitting there with a bunch of strangers. So that's all I wanted to say.
Oh, that's beautiful, and I appreciate that. And the thing is, I believe, this group here is one that's about expanding our hearts and our minds beyond the Christian box, the doors, the mortar, brick and mortar, expanding way beyond that, and realizing that God is everywhere, and it's just a matter of, are we awake to it? And that's why I'm still looking forward to get some Buddhists and some atheists, even just people that can just come on here, and out of love we share our perspectives and we listen to one another and we grow. It does not mean, and I'll say it over and over, it does not mean we have to agree with it, but just that we would be willing to love on somebody even when they don't express the same viewpoints that we have. That, to me, God's doing it all the time. God is doing it every single day with over 8 billion people. And so I want to take a little lesson from that idea, that I too can be able to listen to people and learn and grow from even what they're sharing. Even, it's not like I have the corner. Obviously, none of us have the corner market on religious doctrine or who God is. I think we're all realizing that God is so far out of our boxes that we really don't know anything. All right. Kelly, go ahead. Thank you, Stephanie. Appreciate that.
No problem.
Yeah, this really resonates. Staying in that this present now moment has been a big deal for myself and Janine, and but especially for me, if I'm not staying in the flow in this now moment, boy, I get on that hamster wheel and look out ahead, and it's like, wow. it's just one thing after another, and but if you're staying in the flow in the now moment, and it's just like the flow and the peace, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to say.
So good. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you. Sonia, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to be with you, but I'll be off camera for this one just for a bit.
Okay.
I love this lesson. I have lived it multiple times. And the surrender, banging against against the wall is yeah. I have a journey I want to share. About 7 years ago, it was a cold January, like minus 38 Celsius here, and it was a cold morning. And I was sitting on the couch doing my devotions with Jesus, talking with him. And he said, Sonia, I want to talk about flowers. I'm like, flowers? Okay, what do you want to say about flowers? He said, I'd like to teach you how to grow flowers and learn about flowers. And I said, okay, where's the spiritual application? Right away, right? I set my expectation, right? I know.
Yeah.
No, he really wanted to talk just about flowers, the ones that you seed and you watch them blossom and bloom. And he would not give me the spiritual lesson on it. It's been a 7-year journey, and it's been a hard journey because I started from scratch, and I have epically failed. And we just start again. And the journey really has been in surrender and trust, and so good. So good.
I love that. Love that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Sonia.
Mm-hmm.
June, go ahead.
I think, Sonia, you were sharing last week or the week before about someone asking you about gathering in the church. Was that your question?
That
But
was, yes.
yeah, well, I
Yeah.
love the Mirror Bible, and I was looking up Hebrews 10:25 that says, "Don't forsake the gathering." And the Mirror says, "Our gatherings are no longer a repetition of tradition, but an essential fellowship where we remind one another of our true identity. So let us do this with a greater urgency now that we understand that." Isn't that a beautiful way of saying
That is
it?
good.
And I think last week or whatever I was sharing that Hebrews was written maybe in 60 and 70, and buildings for churches weren't even created till after Constantinople in the 300s. So they weren't even referring, this scripture wasn't even referring to going to church.
Right. Yep. Yep. Yeah.
I love it.
It's one of those things that, again, the programming that we've received has a lot of holes in it. And when we begin to actually question and dig in, yeah, there's a lot of things like that in Scripture that we find that just, once you understand it, it really shifts everything in our perspective and how we understand it. And it's very beautiful, very freeing as we go deeper and deeper. So let's see. Okay, got John. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's interesting because I just finished reading a book on a collection of the Gnostics. And what they revealed in those books, especially Bartholomew and Nicodemus and Pilate, like there's a writing by Pilate. And I see that, the whole thing about churches and buildings, it was just another way of controlling people.
Right.
Absolutely. You get more people in a room, and you got one message that covers all those people.
Like they never had those until
Yeah.
the canonization of the Bible, I don't believe.
Right.
Yep.
And then reading those books, it was like, wow, now I understand why they didn't put them in the Bible. Because if they would have put those in the Bible, the church would be so powerful.
Yeah, the
Especially
people. Yes.
The people would be so powerful, they would be uncontrollable.
Right. Yep.
They wouldn't be put into the boxes and the hush hush, and like when there's one spot, I forget exactly which book it was in, I think it was Nicodemus's recording, where when Jesus was resurrected and they had two people they were interviewing of other people who were resurrected. They asked them, what did you see when Jesus came to Hades to set the people free? And it was just so mind-blowing how, like, when he set Adam free, that Adam was on the ground and thanking Jesus for healing him and restoring him. It was like, and all the other people that were there, same kind of stories that these two people sat down and wrote out for the people.
Yeah.
They couldn't share everything that they saw, but they weren't allowed to, according to Archmichael and Michael the Archangel. But you can share so much, but not everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was so freeing to see that. And then Pilate's what he shared about how the priests tried to cover everything up.
Yeah.
And how he was so disgusted with that.
Well, and you bring this up. It's like, some of the teachings that came out of the early church, excommunication. If you don't follow our guidelines, you're going to be excommunicated and you will go to hell. You will burn there forever. I mean, talk about control and manipulation. And then penance. Oh, wow. What a nice way to raise some money for the church. I mean, it's just bizarre when we look back at it now, but
Yeah.
it's still here. It's still here in different forms today. So again, the point is to awaken and to question and to not throw everything out. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Uh-huh.
Just
So like one more thing I want to show
Mhm.
that really blew my mind. Bartholomew wanted to know what Satan was doing.
Mhm.
So Jesus gave him permission to. He told Bartholomew, like he said, "You don't want to do this." Jesus said, "You don't want to do this," but he begged to let him find out what. And when it's like taking him to court, and he has to tell the truth.
Yeah.
He had to be like Satan was complaining about that he was tricked into sharing his tricks on how he programmed and tried to program people and put forth illusions. He actually called them illusions of gluttony and hypocrisy and those things that God hates so much.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Like if people read that and saw
Well,
how Satan actually operates from his place of, like he shared before before I showed myself as gonna put up God, his name was Satanas. Like L is always at the end of
Yes.
the angel's
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
And then when he was kicked out, it was taken away on him, Satanas.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of stuff. I mean, I wrote some things down, but I'm going to pass on it now because we got a lot of hands up, and we'll keep going here. But good stuff. I mean, it's stuff to think about. It is worth taking the moment to really start to question, because it will open a lot of people's eyes if they simply question and begin to research it for themselves. So,
Yeah, I just want to know the truth. What did they believe then?
Yep. So, thank you, John.
It's
All right,
totally
June.
different than what's in the Bible.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, June.
Oh, I am unmuted. I was looking at the little icons here, and the one with the halo. The one that's praying and they have a halo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I thought, when Jesus said it's imperative that I leave so I can send the Spirit, because the Spirit convicts you of sin, righteousness, and peace, meaning reveals the truth. And I thought the halo is like the Holy Spirit's energy beaming into us. And we've been taught we're creating our halo,
Oh.
which is the treadmill, round and round. I need
works.
to go to church. I need to read the Bible. I need to do all this. And, we are to be resurrected, have the mindset of resurrection where we're up looking with a different perspective.
Yeah.
Than down here. We need to be up. We're seated with Christ. We're seated with him on the throne of innocence. He's on a throne of innocence, and that's where we are. We don't have our little bride throne beside him that we've earned.
Yeah.
We're on that throne of innocence because the halo is changing our perspective. It's energizing us with the truth. I just was pondering that this week.
That's good. Good. Thank you, June. All right, Debbie and Larry.
Okay, unmuted.
There you go.
So yeah, the halo idea, that's really resonating with me. Um, for me, I see like the crown of glory, my the guidance of my being by Yahweh, Yeshua, Ruach HaKodesh, and the way it feels to me, it feels like rest for my soul, and doing things according to the peace in my heart. That scripture's definitely come alive to me. And I mean, before the whole control thing, and before I let go of control, not that I always let go of control, just earlier this morning I was doing the control thing. I was reacting from control. And control for me is like all that church doctrine. It's totally Hebrews 6:1. Let us go beyond the doctrines of Christ. And the doctrines, so I would instantly have all of these doctrines in my mind, in my carnal mind, and prioritizing and putting others before me. I mean, to a point that like I would be so worried about other people, I disappeared pretty much. And that scenario is going way beyond, it's into a bad place of balance in my body and in my world. And so putting myself looking into my inner being and doing the whole rest from my peaceful place with Yeshua, and then functioning is a way different and way more peaceful. Do I need to say anything else? I don't know.
Probably good. Got it.
That's
Much
good.
better. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. I love it. Thank you, Debbie. And just to really kind of hone in, get laser focused for a second, if you got anything out of today, just here would be one of the big things. If you're experiencing stress, or you see that you're having to control various situations, look at what fear is going on inside of you, because fear is what leads us to want to control a situation. And then that control is simply an illusion. It's not necessarily true that you have much, if any, control at all. And you may be able to manipulate the situation for a time being. But the true answer is when we can let go and flow, let go of whatever it is we think we're trying to control, whatever it is we think we're trying to manipulate and make it what we want it to be. Let go of all that in order to step into and flow with what God is already doing. Jesus said he didn't do anything unless he saw the Father doing it. When we let go, we're letting go of our own perceived ideas and the way we think it should be, in order for us to step into what God's doing, looking to see what the Father's doing and doing that. So anyway, it's good stuff. Thank you. I always love your perspective, Debbie, because it's always back to that peace, and that peace really comes only from trust. When we can step away from trying to control a situation, because that just stresses us out. So if you got stress, then you're probably, trying to control something somewhere. And if you can identify it, then you can hopefully switch over into trust. Let go of whatever it is you're trying to make it be, and maybe look at the programming. Why do you think it's supposed to be that way? And ideally be able to let it go. And, I keep using those phrases, and a great way to do it, we do it in meditation a lot, is drop that rope in the spiritual realm where you're doing a tug of war, fighting with whatever it is. Just choose to stop and drop. Stop, drop. You don't need to roll, but stop and drop. Drop it and let it go. All right. Thank you, Debbie. Deneen, go ahead. I got it right. Deneen.
Yeah. Well, let's see. That scripture reference, Hebrews 6:1, that Debbie brought up, made me think about something. that is such an antidote for us to achieve collectively what many humans that are aware or awake desire. I think we all are desiring peace, and we're all desiring love, and we're all desiring unity, and we're all desiring to live in this place called joy.
Mm-hmm.
Yet it appears that the gerbil situation, the going around and around, it's like we're 40 years in the wilderness type of people, and we just keep going around and around and around when the antidote is right there. It's only a few, steps away. And I think about that passage of scripture, and having the mind of Christ. I think about what June was saying about the halo and us, the energy, the frequency of God being, pulled into us.
Yeah.
And I think when I think about that, I think about how much ignorance, I brought that up before, plays a part in us not achieving that goal. And when we are actually walking in the trueness of who we are, I believe that then we will see no war. We will see no prejudice or bigotry. We will see no gender separate, judgment. We will see things as God would have them, and even down to our hunger and thirst. It will be for the things that are only designed for us to hunger and thirst, opposed to the things that we seem to get off track and start hungering and thirst for external things, opposed to our us learning how to be satisfied in what is already inside of us.
Yeah.
I
That's
am
so good.
Yeah, I'm starting to shift the way that I'm consistently thinking, because I want to say this: many of us here, I believe, have had downloads, for failure of another term, if that disturbs anyone, of many of these things, because we have all been created in the perfect image of God. And even unconsciously, even with the interference of false programming, that God is more powerful. And that's the thing that is really, I think, important for me to understand, that greater is he that is in me than he who is in the world. Yes, all this crap is going on, but do I actually believe that it has more influence over me, has more power than the one who's created all things?
If
And
you give it.
when I put things in its proper perspective, then the fear starts to dissipate,
Yeah.
the anxiety, the stress, the impulsivity that that was a part of
Yeah.
my journey. It starts decreasing, because I'm able to rest and be still
Yeah.
and know. And the knowing is an intimacy, not a head knowledge,
Right.
but a knowing that is integrative, a knowing that is like intimacy with husband and wife, which I believe husband and wife situation was just created so that we can learn how to have the husband and wife situation with our creator anyway. It's a part of the journey. It's a learning process, right? It's a part of the learning journey. And I am here today continuously feeling the presence of God, no matter if I'm in prayer, meditation, or if I'm working. So I don't think that we have to make us choice. I think we have to do what is set before us, what we're directed to do, and shouldn't judge each other. If you're on the Pearl and you have been charged to keep building, I believe you shouldn't feel guilty because you haven't stopped and did the formal meditation, because you
Right.
can meditate while you're building. You
Right.
know,
Yep.
the
Yep.
being
Got that,
still
Nicholas?
is, yeah, the being still is inside of us. It's not a performance. It's an internal.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I believe, and all of it's necessary because the goal is for us to be to manifest heaven here in the earth, and to be love, that we may be able to be magnets for love collectively throughout
Yeah.
the earth, and whatever we've been charged to do. And I'm gonna say this and stop. None of us can ever say what the other is supposed to do, because usually that's a personal conversation.
That's
So
right.
I don't know
That's
what
right.
you need to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, this
Love
is
it.
the deal. I don't even know what I need to do some of
Right.
the time, right?
Well,
So, yeah,
and you know, again, just sharing, you know, being straightforward that we're all still learning. I'm still learning, and so when
yeah,
we started the building out the community center, you know, I think Nicholas felt the stress that I was putting on everything, because I felt like gotta get it done, gotta get it done, really pushing forward. That was not from a place of rest. That was not from a place of just knowing that God's going to bring everything in the time it needs to come. But then there was a shift. And as I shifted and stepped more into realizing, okay, whatever needs to be done is going to get done, period. And I'm not kidding. I mean, you can ask Nicholas and Jeanette, but things that I had ordered that said that they weren't going to be here until like just the week of the retreat. And it was going to be really tough to even get those things done. You know, I had ordered them, but there's nothing I can do about their delivery date. Well, all of those things came in 1, 2, 3 weeks early, and we're basically done. And it's a week before, you know. So
yeah,
that's God at work, and
yeah,
we get to just rest our way into it. And there's been many times where I'm just like, it's therapeutic for me to go down there and work on stuff at a pace that I love to work at, slow pace. And you know, I just told Nicholas, yeah, I'm going to go down there and start. You know, and when you feel up to it or ready or whatever, you're done with whatever you're doing, you know, and if you want to come down, come on down. There's a day that he left to go get grab something to eat really quick. He didn't come back for an hour and a half. I don't know what it was, but what I loved about me in that situation is that I was not perturbed or upset one bit. I know Nicholas, and I'm like, no, Nicholas has a reason for whatever he's doing, and for whatever reason that he didn't come right back. And I just kept moving along at my own little pace. And but that was also a day that I got really challenged, and I kind of karate chopped a board in half, sort of.
funny.
Yeah, so we're all growing, and it's a beautiful journey.
Yes,
And
yes.
yeah, it's good. It's good. But
That's the thing. We are all growing.
yeah,
And you know, the thing that is I think is so important, what I've learned is I cannot look at the things which you're seeing, because the things which you're seeing are temporary.
yeah,
The thing I'm saying that statement because everything that looks like something is not something. Good can look like evil, and evil can look like good. So it's impossible for us to make that judgment. Like you said, there was a time when you were doing the exact same thing, but your internals were stressed. Then you were doing the same thing and you were at rest. So that's my point. It's not a matter. It wasn't so much directed to you and Nicholas, other than to just
no,
my
no, no,
experience, period,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And stuff, because really it's difficult for us to be these Obi-Wan Kenobi's, these perfect discerners of everybody else's journey, right? It's impossible. But there's sometimes when we're directed to be our brother's keeper, you know, so it's not just in a box and this is it and this is the only way, because it may shift tomorrow or 5 minutes from now. And I think that the alignment and the integration with God helps us to know when to hold and when to fold, you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. It's so
basically.
good. You know, there's a video clip that I found. It came into my mind, and then I went and found it online, and it's from Star Wars when now I can't remember his name. It's not Obi-Wan Kenobi, the younger version. It's the younger version of Obi-Wan Kenobi's leader, master. Maybe somebody knows who that is.
Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yes, Qui-Gon Jinn. And he's, you know, they're battling. Darth Maul is the one that they're battling, and they get into this situation where Darth Maul gets on the other side of this force field, and these force fields are timed. So they had to wait. They get separated, and Darth Maul's on the other side, pacing back and forth, waiting to, for the force field to come down so he can go at it again. Qui-Gon Jinn, when the force field goes up, he just calms himself, and he gets down into a meditative position, and he just meditates. He just quiets himself. And, to me, that's what, kind of working at the Pearl. It's like, okay, when it's time to work, we work. And then when we can, we also step aside and we spend focused time into the meditation. But yet at the same time, it's like even Qui-Gon Jinn and the whole fighting with the Force. They're in the groove. They're in that meditation spot, even though they're very active. But they're doing it from an inner place, not from a frantic place. And there's a big difference. And I love the beauty of when we can actually work from that place. And I was even sharing with Nicholas, it's like when I slow down, to me, the key for me to get into that right space is for me to slow way down. I just keep slowing down. And then once I feel like I've dropped into that space where I can work in that space of peace, then I'll start working. And then even when I'm in that space and I'm working, if something comes up and it becomes evident that this is not going to get done at the pace that I'm going, I've many times done this. I've begun to speed up my pace, but I'm more conscious about that peace on the inside than I am about the pace I'm going. But I'll wind up getting, moving at a faster pace and getting the job done still in that place of peace. But it has to be focused first on the inside and having that come from within, and it's working itself out. Not getting all frantically tied up into the chaos of the outside and trying to do it from there. Not going to work well. So it is a beautiful, beautiful meditative level to get at and just to operate from. It is beautiful. It really is. Anyway, thank you, Debbie and Deneen, for those thoughts. And so we'll go ahead and go to John, and then Sonia and Anita after that. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, you mentioned Jesus only did what he saw the Father doing, said what the Father is doing. So my question to myself is, and to all you, is how do we do that? For myself, I think I do it by, when I'm about to do something, is this peaceable, or think something, or say something, or am I, if I'm compelled by love, I would think that's what the Father would do. If I'm moved by compassion, that's what the Father would do. I'd be interested in knowing how other people do what they see the Father doing, because I feel like the Father's inside me. So if I'm going to do something and it's not what the Father would do, I feel the unsettledness in my spirit, in my gut, or wherever, where the I am is, and I don't do it, or I don't say it.
Yeah.
And if I say it and I feel, oh, I shouldn't have said that, then I feel that check within myself. So that I didn't do what I didn't see the Father doing that, so I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, and that is a good question. I like that, and I think we'll have some time to come back to that. So I'm writing that question down so we can come back to it. I just want to let Sonia and Anita go, because they would not probably be able to jump in on whatever they wanted to share if we go down that road. But I like the question, and we will come back to it. It's a good one. I think it's a good discussion right there. So thank you, John. Sonia, go ahead.
I want to share a couple of things that just resonate with what you were sharing earlier, but I also want to answer John's question. So may I do that first?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
So John, that is a really good question. And I would say that has been one of the key foundations of my journey. And it's developed, it changed. At first, it used to be biblical programmed, where I would say, okay, Lord, this is what I did all this week. And I would bring him all my to-dos and everything I felt that I accomplished. And what are your thoughts about that? Waiting for praise, waiting for words of affirmation, waiting for him to say he was proud of me. And then that shifted, strangely enough, where as I grew to trust him, where I bring him my failures and my shameful moments. And then that grew even more, where I would do it daily. And then it grew to where I would ask him in the moment of struggle, in the moment of pain, or in the moment of a fight, where were you in this fight? Where were you in this argument that I was having with this person? Where were you in this struggle that I was having? Where were you when I was melting? And where were you when I was having a blow up? Where were you when I was hurting? And then I would trust him in those moments and I would just listen, and I would feel, and I would look and see in the spirit, and I would feel from my heart and from my I am, from my throne. So as these things developed in me, John, I invited him into it, all of it. I wanted to see it from his perspective. And then I grew to where I was totally comfortable in my heart with him when we're one. And I would sit in his heart too. I can go to his heart and just sit in the presence of his heart. And now, John, I bring him, and I'm so aware of this, I bring him into everything I am and doing and being. And so as I grew with him and me, then I could extend that out in my biofield, in my presence. So he comes with me to work, and I don't say a word, but some of my clients are like, I saw the Father with you. They know him themselves, but Father was here. And sometimes I will see and sense in the spirit what he's about to do with a client. I'm in awe. I'm just in awe. So I live in trust and awe with him now, John. Such a good question. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so a couple of stories with what you guys were sharing recently happened. Like this just recently happened, where I received a text message from my daughter who said, you need to go see your mom in the hospital. And I kind of have a distant boundary relationship with my mom because I've been breaking the programming and the roles that I've been programmed to fulfill that are very codependent and toxic codependent. And I live in a peace now with my family. I chose peace over people. And relationship with them is not in peace, so I choose peace. And I choose love. I love where I can, and I walk away a lot. And so I got the message, and I felt the stress, the fear, and the scare, the intention to scare. So I sat still, and I felt the Father's laughter when I sat in that moment. And I joined him in the laughter. And so I waited. I had a full workday. I waited till the end of my workday. I called my mom laughing. I felt that joy and laughter. And jokingly, I said, so, Mom, are you about to pass away now? Are we ready to say goodbye to you? And I said it with humor. I said it with lightness. I said it out of that laughter and that I heard Father laughing in. And she laughed too. She actually said, no, who told you that? And I'm like, okay. And then we had a great conversation about what's been really happening. And we have been having good conversation since. And then the second one was actively this summer, I volunteered to birth a farmer's market in my community. And that stress response, that adrenaline rush, the words even that were spoken in the morning, the things that were said, I would respond with peace and flow and love. And I actually sat down as many times as I needed. And one time there was 5 times where I had to sit down and meditate into that center, into the stillness, and breathe and bring the Father's presence and Jesus and Holy Spirit. They were having such a ball every time I tuned into them. They were enjoying it so much. And I'm like, okay, we don't got to worry here. Just let it go. Let it go what other people said. Let go what I want to do, and let go what I want to respond with. I won't respond with stress. I'll choose this joy. I
So
lived
good.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
So good. Love that. Thank you, Sonia. We'll go ahead and move to Anita. Go ahead, Anita. Good to have you on here.
Hey, good to be here, Gil. It's been Long time.
It has.
Yeah. So I will just say that it took me burning out and completely shutting down. I mean, I was burning the candle at all ends, not, they say both ends. I was on doing as much as I possibly could because I don't know why. I was in crazy mode or something. But thank God I burnt out. Like I just finally, that's it. Like I have to shut down from like all the noise, all the chaos. And it's not the first time that I've been in that place with some really in-depth meeting places with the Trinity and going to that place of peace. So yeah, it's this season for me in that peace, and you call it the flow, is I've been saying I'm in a womb with a view.
I love it.
Because I believe there's something that's being refined and rebirthed even. I mean, not that any of the dreams are dead,
Yeah.
but if they are and I have to let go, that's fine. But if not, I want that passion and desire only to do, like you're talking about there at the Pearl, working when you feel like you're in that place, and then going and taking that time and taking the walk and meditating and being full on and fully present in that place.
It's beautiful.
So, yeah, it's been very, very, very good for me today.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you, Anita. All right, Debbie and Larry.
Hey, Anita, so good to see you. And that was an awesome contribution. Thank you.
It was.
So the letting go of control thing. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Yeshua. Well, for me, I had a lot of rules about friends. I had to be friends with everyone, and I had to include people. Those were my rules. And so allowing myself to move at the discernment of the peace of Christ within me was controversial. And I would force myself to be in situations with people that I spent more time, I'm a seer. I spent more time trying to unsee things that I didn't want to see. And it was not fun. And I really think that's how my discernment, that is my discernment of moving in peace, in the peace of Christ.
Yeah.
Living, moving, and having my being, and doing so from there rather than from the rules of I have to. And the other point that I had was about knowing, it was referring to John's question and referring to when I'm hearing from God and when I'm not hearing from God. I went through a phase there where I was always questioning, well, was that from God? Is it not from God? Did I hear him correctly? And so finally I came to a place where I decided that as I'm resting in the peace of Christ within me, I'm with God. So anything that comes from there is from God. So I could let that whole thing go and just rest with my soul. And, I thought, well, if I get it wrong, I get it wrong, but this is how it's going to go.
It's good. Yeah, I thank you, Debbie. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's the journey when we're all working it together, like I feel like we are, and we get to share. Again, John's question was excellent, and I'm going to go ahead and go to Maxine and Nicholas in case now we might be on that question already, so I'm not sure. But anyway, Maxine, go ahead.
I accidentally muted you, Maxine. I was putting a code in to ask you to unmute.
Thanks, John. Thinking about the controlling factor, as we get older, people try to limit us and put us in a box of, well, you're getting older, you're going to get sick, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I was mowing one day and it was like almost drudgery, going down in the ditch and getting that stuff. And my dad lived to be 102.
Wow.
And I looked at myself and I said, you're only 80. What's wrong with you? Get it together here. So
programming, right? Yeah. It really is. And we can go down a whole other road on that idea of aging and programming. But anyway, thank you, Maxine. Appreciate that. Nicholas, go ahead.
Hey, so going back to John's question on how do we know the will of God, one thing I learned that I use sometimes, I was taking a Mind Valley course, and this guy was on duality, and he was talking about how to figure out what the path is ahead. And so he'd close his eyes, get into a meditative space, and he'd imagine 3 paths. One path, a lot of times you have these 2 options, like should I do this or should I do that? And so he'd imagine walking into that timeline or down that course of events and just feeling how it feels in his gut, and then doing that with the second one. But then opening up the third one and being like, well, what's a path that I haven't thought about, and leaving that open to maybe fill itself out. And we got to use it the other day. Gil and I were making a purchase about 20 minutes from here in the Pearl, for the Pearl. And it was a big enough purchase. They were like, should we do this? Should we not do this? And trying to figure out just how to use the money the best way. And I asked him, because I thought about that. I said, so Gil, imagine we get home with this purchase and you start using this purchase, and how are you feeling about it? Any buyer's regret? Imagine it goes well. You're not going to imagine these weird situations. Everything goes bad, but just imagine pretty much goes good. What do you feel? How are you feeling? And then he retorted and gave me what he was feeling. And then we imagined the other one. What if we just kind of walk away and say, thank you very much for showing this item to us, but we're not interested right now? And so, you would think, okay, it's clear, but then you actually start getting into the distinctions between soul and spirit. Because I mentioned to Gil, I said, well, Gil, knowing you on your personality side and the things that motivate you and all that, I would caution you or suggest about this or that. You might be having this thought about this purchase, that. So trying to distinguish between whether it's the ego, the motivations, all that, and just what feels in your gut. Like, what does it feel like in your gut versus your head, and those different things. For me personally, I keep a to-do list all the time. I have like a long ongoing tickler list, and then the night before I'll throw like 5 or 10 items in the next day's list. But as I'm going through them, my head will say, well, I gotta, need to, should, have to do this one next. But then I'll be like, ugh, I don't feel good. And it's not because I'm lazy, and it's not because of this or that. It's just because my gut is like, don't do that one first. And so I'll take the advice of this being I listen to called Bashar that channels through Daryl Anka, who says go with his formula for happiness is going with your preference, and it's how to live in synchronicity. So I'll be like, well, frankly, I prefer to do this other item. Like Gil was talking about going when I was feeling kind of tired and sick one day, went down there anyhow. I was doing the shoulda, woulda, coulda. Let me go down there and help Gil. And then about like an hour in, I was like, I just really I need something to eat, And I went up there, get a hard-boiled egg. And then I said, I really just need to lay down for a few minutes. And so I laid down. And I came back feeling like $1 million. But if I had gone with the programming or the people pleasing with Gil or the whatever thoughts, and it worked out. The universe made room for me. Gil's not a taskmaster anyhow, but like he said, he wasn't really worried about it. He just figured we're all living kind of in synchronicity on this community, and he just kind of said, there must be a reason. You know, I texted him that I was taking a nap and tried to communicate, but he wasn't really looking at text. He was working, so he missed it. So he had to just rely on his, probably pretty good. But just going in that flow. So those two items. One is that idea of walking down a path and feeling your gut, learning the distinction between your gut and your head. And a couple of those examples with Gil and me, and then and the way I handle life. Maybe that's helpful for you, John. Maybe that's helpful for anybody. And it reminds me, and it's helpful for me. So thank you very much.
So good. Thank you, Nicholas. Yeah. And I'll just say that it is, to me, it's also a practice. Because for me, yes, I'm always looking at circumstances and where the peace is. You mentioned that, John. And that's a big one for me. I'm looking where's the peace? If I can see it, very clearly, great. And another method is that I've developed is actually when I'm engaging in the heavens, and I can engage with Father at a certain place, certain point, and can't do it all the time because sometimes that idol in the heart rises up, and the idol in the heart is so loud and screaming and noisy that I'm not really able to hear Father at that point. And so usually I can identify when that's happening. And so I proceed with a whole lot more caution because I know that I'm not necessarily hearing clearly. So those are just a few things. But at the same time, when I am hearing clearly, I think I've got, I'm just throwing out a number, but I'd say 95% of the time when I feel like I'm hearing clearly, I sense I'm hearing clearly, and I hear something and I go with it, it's usually right. But then there's a lot of times where that idol in the heart is swirling around and causing so much chaos and noise that I really just can't hear. So that's probably about half the time when I go, to the Father to speak, to hear, to see, or to sense what He's doing. But and I love this because there's a lot of different people with a lot of different methods, and I think it's important we all hear all of them, and then you get to kind of put into practice what you feel would work for you. So, all right. All right, Deneen, go ahead. Thank you, Nicholas.
Yeah, this wasn't what I wanted to say, but like I was saying earlier, that we're maps. We're maps.
Mm-hmm.
We're not the goal. We are maps, just like the Bible is a map. It takes us to the true sovereign divinity that actually governs our lives. But what I wanted to say is that when I left the line just a few minutes ago, what happened was something that I thought was important to share, how when we are in tuned, and I'm not in tune because I necessarily am always consciously in tune. It's just that I made a choice to be in tune. My sister was locked out, right? She had locked herself out. And I never look at my phone, but I looked at my phone. And she had texted me because she knows that I'm in Gathering right now, saying, I can't get in. Please open the door. That was not me. That was, that was our God. I said, Allison, she said, I was hoping, because I know you don't look at the phone. But that happened in the midst of our conversation as a living example of how being in tune actually directs what we would call mundane things, the simple things in life. No big spectacular thing, just something as simple as opening the door for my sister who was locked outside, who had to go to the bathroom. Right. So, right. So
I understand that.
Yeah, right. So that was, for me, I thought that was share worthy.
Yeah.
I know something just really simple. But the other thing I was thinking about was that I use this talking about using the map, this passage from the Bible. Many of us know, I can't assume everybody knows. When the disciples were confused about why they couldn't cast out these demons. And they were like, saying, well, why couldn't we cast them out? And Jesus says, some only come out through prayer and fasting.
Mm-hmm.
And see, what was revealed to me, maybe, I don't even care to say the number of years. It's been a long time ago, because sometimes saying the number of years feels like ego to me. It's not even that. It was just a long time ago. And the Lord said, Deneen, it's not event-oriented prayer and fasting. it's a lifestyle of prayer and fasting. That when a situation occurs, then you're prepared. So it's like the preparation comes in the way you live. And the reason why they couldn't cast them out is because they were still in training, and they were still in sensationalism mode. And they were still, of course, they had times when they were able to do it. But some things are so deeply programmed, so deeply inside of wherever, or outside, wherever it is. Some things are just difficult tasks. I'll put it that way, that if I'm not connected, then I'm going to be in a situation that appears that I don't have the power.
Yeah.
Because I do, I haven't figured out how to tap into it and utilize it.
Yeah.
But if I'm in continuous, ongoing building of this strong relationship with our sovereign divine God, then because we're created in his image, then what he can do, so can I. He not gender oriented, for those who may have an issue with that. I'm always trying to say things to be universally connected, and not just biasly connected to my way of thinking,
Yeah.
Or my language, really, because it's not even so much my thinking. My thinking is not inside the box, but my language sure is, because I haven't learned how to talk differently than what I was trained to talk, right?
Programmed.
Where I was programmed to talk.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to share that as we were talking about how. Well, the how is the relationship building and becoming stronger, and not forcing it, and not trying to have a relationship by studying scriptures, memorizing scripture, coming to gatherings, or listening to YouTubes, but just being and having a relationship organically, and not forcing it, because I believe that the power that we possess, and not power for the sake of external power that we possess, just our true existence, our true being, is manifested in the earth, comes in spite of us, not because of us. It just happens continuously. And if I'm able to, and this is the last thing, if I'm able to discuss it in, like I'm trying to now, in any greater detail, then I probably don't really have it, because I think it's beyond words. I believe that what's happening on the inside of us, we can live it out and show it to each other better than we can say it to each other.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
And I find in my own journey, and we're going to wrap up here because we're about out of time, but where we are out of time. But just a couple other things, and it's something that we also teach and we actually activate in the retreats, is just learning to slow down. Really learning to slow down. And that's why I talk about just stop. There's a point where when you realize you are in chaos, when you realize you are just scrambling and just you're you have that sense of being out of control, is just stop. Stop, and if you need to sit down to meditate, find a place that's quiet to meditate, then do that. But I find that when we are able to slow down, then we are able to step into that flow, because you were talking about getting that message. It's like I'm pretty sure when I'm really, really going hard, I'm not hearing a lot of flow stuff. All I've got in front of me is what's next, and I'm just jamming it in and making it go. And I like that. That's kind of my personality. But I also know that's not where the flow is at. And so I'm training myself to step back and to get into that place of flow. And there's a place for fun and excitement. But for me, right now, most of the time, getting into that fun and excitement, I'm not necessarily listening to the flow, but I don't believe God has a problem with that either. He's good with us having fun and just doing our thing. But for me, I want to be, as much as I can, I want to be in that flow, which means I need to slow down. And so it's a beautiful thing. It's like, have your fun, do your thing, and then come on back, because it's all still part of the human experience that I believe God wants us to have. But when you're ready to tune in to see what's next, slow down and then look for flow. The opposite is stress,
Excuse me,
fear,
I don't
and
want
chaos.
to interrupt you, but before you close out, you know what? I forgot to do not slowing down. I wanted to say to Isaac, to Norman, to Anita, those that we don't see all the time. I wanted to welcome them from the depths of all of our hearts because I know we all are feeling that. And because I didn't slow down,
And Juliana.
I forgot to say it. Well, June, me and her connected. We've been, flowing for a couple of weeks now.
No, I said
But
Juliana.
where's Julia? Oh, Juliana's
She's
here.
from Switzerland.
Oh, Juliana, forgive me, and you as well. I'm telling you, it is so beautiful to see some people that we have not seen before. Some I haven't, which is very few, and those that we haven't seen in a long time. And I personally welcome you from the depths of my very being.
And
I am so happy to see you.
Yeah, it's been good to see everybody. Yeah, I love it. It blesses me to see more and more people coming on here, and this, and whether you speak up or not is totally up to each and every one of you. But I love to hear the different perspectives. And if this group grows to be so large that we can't get everybody's perspective in, on one group, then we'll still do the same thing, but we'll just divide up into 2 or 3 different groups, and that way everybody gets to be heard and gets to share and gets to talk, and then maybe come back and go through the highlights. So anyway, I love you guys. I thank you so much. And if you are on Facebook or YouTube and you want to go for the next extra mile, the afterburn with John and Evelyn are going to take over, and we'll keep on going. I got to switch over here. They're going to keep on going for the next hour or so, just relationship. It's just a really, really good time with everybody to build relationship and go even deeper. So love you all again. Thank you so much. Keep sharing this. Get the word out. We'd love to have some other people and more perspectives come in and be part of this family. Love you all. Take care. Bye-bye.